Hello and welcome to another episode of REWIRE with Rhona, the podcast all about burnout. And today's topic is slightly different. Titled Sleep When the Baby Sleeps. Let's do better. I'm joined today by Dotty Drysdale, a baby sleep expert. As we talk a lot about burnout in the context of work and ambition, I also wanted to shine a light on one of the most under-discussed triggers. This is the overwhelm of early parenthood. Sleep deprivation is not a rite of passage. It is a health crisis. And my guest today is a baby sleep expert who has made it her mission to help parents and their little ones finally get the rest they deserve. This episode is for every exhausted parent who has been told just to push through. We're done with pushing through. So welcome, Dotty. Hi.
Hiya.
So first of all, tell us a bit about your journey into baby sleep. What drew you to this work? And was there a personal experience behind it?
Absolutely. I don't think you can get in any other way. So I was never the maternal kind, if I'm honest. I was a happy girl living around London and all of a sudden decided to have babies. And I was so in love in the first few months. It's like the adrenaline that kicks in with the love hormones, and you don't see it coming. And sometimes it really takes over until at some point it reduces and you go, oh my God, I'm tired. How do I keep going? Do you know what I mean? So that's how it started. I was fueled with love and it was absolutely stunning. And one day I found myself when my firstborn was 4 months old, my first one, and she was up every 5 to 20 minutes throughout the night, not a spell of sleep, just for the dummy to get pushed right back into her mouth. And in the first part of the night, it would work, so the first few hours. And at some point, it stopped working. She was just up, crying. She didn't want fed. We tried everything. The only thing that would help is bouncing on a yoga ball for hours on end, only for her to wake up as soon as she hit the mattress. Very gently, I might add. We were like, didn't work. This beautiful lady came into my life and said, oh, I'm just training with this lovely sleep training method. It worked on my daughter because we didn't have to let her cry it out because I couldn't do it. And I said to her, I tried that for about 8 minutes and I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. Her face turned purple. Like baby cries, mama cries. It doesn't really work. She didn't sleep and I couldn't keep it going. So she said, I'm training. Would you like to meet my guinea pig? And I said, yes, please. And yeah, I did that with my firstborn and straight after trained to help other parents.
That's amazing. And how do you define good sleep for a baby? And does
Oh,
that definition shift dramatically depending on the age of the child?
parent, because they're the only one who can really they have got a sleep issue or my child's got a sleep issue, because some mums would be absolutely happy with a baby who's completely connected to the boob the entire night, co-sleeping 12 hours, they would feed every hour. And another mum would be completely depressed by that because they don't want to harm their baby. So they're feeding on demand. So they're up all night long and they don't want them to cry. And neither one of them deserves any judgment. They're just doing their best. But one is happy with that situation and one cannot stand that situation because they're losing themselves. They can't be the mum they want. They can't go to work. Not every place in the world gives you a year off for your maternity leave. Some places would go for 2-3 months. That just all accumulates together. For a baby, however, sleep is the second survival need. So it's water, sleep, nutrition. It's a survival need. And I think many can survive on adrenaline for a long time. Body just learns how to work with it because we're human. But yeah, they need a lot more sleep than they're getting in most cases.
Okay. So there is so much conflicting advice out there about baby sleep. It's crazy. How do exhausted parents even know where to start with this just overwhelm of information?
Good question. Suppose you try, don't you? You try different things. And when nothing seems to work, you seek human advice. You speak to someone who understands. And then for me, the right advice is what really sits well in your gut. If you get advice that is conflicting with this, it just causes this twang in your heart to go, okay, I'll do it if I have to, but I don't feel that's right for me. There's a fine line because parenting, there isn't a right or wrong answer there. You do your best. You have your experiences from your parents, from you as a child, and nobody knows best for you and best for your child. So certain advice that works for some doesn't work for others. It's so personal. There are guidelines from the government, which are preferably best to listen to that. I can't direct anyone otherwise anyway. But yeah, I suppose for me, it's really important to understand who's the parent, what's the parenting style, what's the lifestyle looking like, what's the child seeing, what messages are getting conveyed from the parent, and equally, who's the child, what's their temperament, what's their way of being, who are they, what are their needs, how are they behaving, and how do you translate that really into something that makes sense? Because everything's behavioral, just about everything. Whatever's physical, you know it. There's no two ways about it. You just, if there's pain, if there's a need, you go and you answer that. But behaviorally, I think it's such a blind spot, especially when it's your child. They're crying for something, they get it. And sometimes you're thinking, that's not good for you to feed every 20 minutes or to receive a bottle of water, to the point where I've had babies who get more than a liter of water overnight. Why? Just because they want that little suckle every 15 to 30 minutes overnight. So is it healthy for them? Sometimes it's not. At the same time, if I deny it, it results in a crying, angry baby. What's the right thing to do? So sometimes you really need to know why they're behaving the way that they are. So learning how to translate your child, their behavior, and how to do something different, and how to place a boundary to not to be harsh on your child or deny them what they need, but more to give safety. There was I love this experiment. There was an amazing experiment with kids on the top of a high-rise building in the States. There were two of them, two groups, one on a 30-story building with a fence around the top of the open space. And they all had bicycles, and they were told, go and cycle around. And they took their bicycles and they went around, carefree, all happy. But then next door, apartment building, and there was no fence. It was completely open, and the kids did not budge. So it just shows you, kids, they need to know where boundaries lie, and so they can feel safe, so they can feel carefree. But if you don't know where the boundaries lie, you're constantly asking yourself, am I safe? And there's then anxiety built around that. There's fear, there's pressure, there's stress. So if they keep having to figure out, or testing their parents to figure out what's going on around them so they could feel safe, then you'll see that they build control around certain areas. So yeah, advice can be conflicting, not always making sense. And so sometimes, yeah, you need to really just listen to your gut and see, where does that sit with me?
That's a really interesting experiment that was conducted, and about the boundaries, but how the boundaries provide the protection, because it's something I see with women who are on the verge of or in burnout. It's those boundaries have gone, and the safety net that those boundaries provide have been pushed. So it's amazing how that translates so well into the professional business women that I'm working with. let's talk about the parent side of this. What does chronic sleep deprivation actually do to the parent's nervous system beyond them just feeling tired?
Really, after a while, the body just starts working on adrenaline. It's the same for the baby as it is for the parent. So for the parent, that stress of going to bed, not knowing how tonight's battle is going to look like, when are they going to wake up, and how long is it going to be to put them back to sleep? There's a lot of stress around that, a lot of anxiety. So parent's body is running on adrenaline and it's on high mode all the time. Those adrenal glands are getting burnt out. So you're constantly tired. Coffee doesn't make a difference. And even if you sleep 12 hours one day, you're not going to catch up because adrenaline is constantly fighting with melatonin. It suppresses it. So even though your pineal gland, which is releasing melatonin plus 3 other hormones between certain hours in the night, if you've got adrenaline running your system, that's all getting pushed down. So you're not really getting the quality sleep that you need in order to recuperate. And also when we finish a process, that even though the parent is now sleeping 8 to 10, 11-hour nights, depending on when they went to sleep, because you do really want that those couple hours in the evening before you go to bed, between the time baby goes to bed and the time you go to bed. And babies can sleep up to 12, 13 hours. And yeah, so the parent, once they start to sleep, it takes a few weeks to really to let the adrenaline die down and for you not to be on edge. And then until that happens, you're going to be completely drowsy because your body doesn't know how to run without that adrenaline. So it's a vicious cycle, chicken and egg. You don't know where it starts, you don't know where it ends. But that muscle fatigue, that inability to get past 2, 3 p.m., the short fuse, and I can promise you that every mom wants to be the best mom she can be. You can't. You just explode out of you. A little baby who doesn't even understand what you're saying. I can't fault these moms. They're miserable. They're exhausted. And it just comes out of them. Sometimes it's a scream. Sometimes it's a go to dad, go to granny. I need to go away for an hour and just breathe. But then you're going back into the same situation. So unless you rectify it, you can't really snap out of that situation. And even then, it takes weeks to really regain that balance that your body's completely forgot. You must see this a lot, actually, in this business.
Yes, so too. And I think certainly for women, because with the best will in the world, even if they have the most understanding partner, the children graduate towards the mother. And
the buck stops with her.
The buck stops the mom. I think it was in Mom, I Blew Up the Kids, and it was something my stepmother used to frequently say, this quote, dads mean fun, moms mean business. So even if it's had a stressful day at work and she comes home and then she's straight back into dealing with the children and the sleep routine, the bedtime routine, storytelling, sleep, whatever that looks like. And when that sleep disruption happens, your brain actually changes shape because you're not getting enough rest that's actually recruiting you as a body and as a person. So I can just see this absolutely the need for your services. So throughout my lifetime, I have always heard the expression sleep when baby sleeps. Why is this advice both well-meaning and not quite enough?
I think I've heard every mom who's ever heard that sentence laugh about it because it's impossible. Because there's so much to do. Because your body doesn't shut down 3 times a day when they're napping. And sometimes they don't nap. How many moms get in touch with me and say, my baby doesn't sleep at all. They're 6 months old and they're not sleeping during the day and they're up every 20 minutes at night. Yeah, you can. You absolutely can. And then once they're actually down, if you can actually put them down, what are you going to do? You're going to go and make a cup of coffee. You're You're going to go and do the dishes. You're going to go into the shower, take them with you, and hope the shower water doesn't wake. Nah. I mean, if you can, great. It's not going to make any difference. You still need a good routine where you're not under pressure all the time. Otherwise, you're going back into the same adrenal fatigue.
And
well-meaning, though, that's a good one.
there is a lot of mum guilt around sleep training, though. And it's that fear that letting the baby settle itself is somehow harmful. And what does the evidence actually say about letting your child find its own sleep pattern, its own routine to an extent?
Yeah, it depends on what you know about sleep training. I don't really like that word because they're not a dog and they're not a husband. Yeah, because here, when you're saying sleep training, you go back to Ferberizing your baby, which I'm doing this on what's in the back in the history of parenting, where older moms would say to me, I used to put baby in bed. They would cry their eyes out until they fell asleep. And I would cry my eyes out downstairs until they fell asleep and then feel guilty the entire night. So if this is sleep training, then yeah, I get the stress. What I do, or I suppose let's expand more about what sleep training is. So there's so many methods out there. There's the cry out where Ferber, you basically put baby in bed, leave the room and see them in the morning. Don't go back in no matter what happened. So I've deserted my baby basically, because if they don't receive an answer to their needs, cry equal needs for them, then they know quite quickly that they're alone in the world. So that sense of abandonment, that's deep, that doesn't go away. That stays for life. I'm alone. There's nobody here to look out for me. The evidence is these days you will see 30 and 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds who are still carrying that load. And you will see the evidence in psychological practices, in clinics. The evidence is real. The statistics are high for abandonment issues. And the kids have not been abandoned, but that's the experience they had. So I don't agree with that, and I don't work that way. I couldn't do it to my little ones. And at the same time, I do want to stress there is no judgment to the parents who do it. Sometimes that's all you can do. Sometimes that's all you know. And sometimes it just works in a couple of days and you go for it. Thank God something worked. You do what you can and you give your baby love where you can. So zero judgment from me. Then there's a variety of methods that work on timing, timed entrances and exits, pick up, put down, whatever you want to call it. And here you're counting on a clock that the baby can't read. So they don't have a watch. Their biological needs have nothing to do with their emotional needs. And so whether you count 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes before you walk in the room, they can't associate your actions with their actions. So what are we doing? So sometimes it works because they have given up on calling the parent or too tired. And sometimes it doesn't work, or sometimes it works for a while and then baby changes. They upgrade their system all the time, every 4 weeks or so. They've got a developmental wave, and they become cleverer and more awake and more aware. And so they test. And if you don't stand that test, down you go again. So there's no control in their hands. And control is the most used coping mechanism for anxiety and stress / lack of boundary. And so what I do before the technique itself is I'm a parent coach who focuses on sleep. I work with the teachings of Alfred Adler, who worked with young, and his idea was put the child in the center, not their wants, but their needs, their psychological needs. So really what we want to think of when we look at our child is we want to make sure they are feeling a sense of belonging, a sense that they are needed, so they're useful, and obviously that they are loved. So this is the core of my work. And what's really important here is to make the situation, the change in the new sleep pattern or the new sleep process really clear to the baby. So we want them to know, I need to do this in order to get that. Most babies until, say, the age of 18 to 20 months, they can't really speak. So in actions, we need to make sure that they know what they need to do in order to get support for their parents. So a cry would be the main tool. There's all sorts of crying, complaints. And here, really, this is the difference. We're giving them the control within the boundaries that we lay. And the boundaries are laid with love, but not with anger, with a lot of patience for the baby's sake. So if they're safe and there is this bubble of protection, there's, for me, and this is really important, and I always stress this to every parent I work with, there is a consistent and immediate answer to the baby's needs. Crying, equal needs. So they get an answer, so they feel protected. They're never alone. Sometimes they don't get what they want, but they definitely get what they need, which is physical support. So there's always touch, there's always cuddles. And the most important thing is they're getting their control. They understand how to control the situation within those boundaries. So there is that safety bubble. And it's really important as well, not that just that the baby feels in control, but that the parent knows that they know why the baby is behaving the way that they do, because they've already learned how to translate their actions and their behavior. And so a parent's not standing there going, oh my God, my baby is crying. No, my baby is really frustrated right now, and that's okay. They're allowed to feel frustrated. They've not asked for this change, but I'm doing this for them, and I'm doing this for me and for this family, maybe for their big brother or sister. And that's okay. I'm here and I'm cuddling. And when you decide to calm down, I'll still be here with you. So yeah, I absolutely love what I do, as you can see. And I also sometimes volunteer with postnatal depressed mothers who have said, for me, that's the sentence, who have said the sentence, I'm thinking about leaving my family. I'm thinking about leaving my baby. I just can't do this anymore. I just want to pack my things and go. So for me, that is my passion, just to get sleep back into their lives. It's not a luxury, it's a need. It's a survival need for everyone involved.
Yeah, that's incredible, because postnatal depression has so many elements to it, but just that overwhelm, I think anything that can help to have baby sleep better so mum can have a bit of a break has got to, from the neurological sense, be a benefit, even though there's all these other complex emotions and hormones flying around and all these other huge challenges. So that is wonderful to hear, that it can go just from any family having those challenges to that very specific group of women who are struggling. And a lot of them feel that guilt that they don't feel how they think they should feel. And I think that makes it even more of a vicious circle.
Yeah, those expectations of yourself. And I think everything really shifts during the process, once they see that what they thought the baby needed, or everything that they gave them so far, is really not needed. And once the baby shifts with what the parent's doing, with the change, and they feel they're safe and they feel secure, and all of a sudden this newfound freedom is developing, and they're going, oh, this is actually quite fun being in bed, and the parent gets to be there and watch that evolve. And that really brings on that sense of, okay, I think I'm doing something really good here. And that transitions on to the babies. Everyone's then feeling, okay, we can keep going. And it turns into a beautiful thing. Independence in babies is the one thing they really want. It's all they want. And at the same time, we take it away from them without even noticing. The amount of parents who are telling me, oh, my child has a dummy or pacifier. I will put the dummy in their mouth. They're 10 months old. They're trying to push it away while they're crying. So I'm just holding it onto their mouth. And I'm thinking, your child doesn't want a dummy. They don't want it. Did you know? No, they don't know. They're just doing their best. But there, now the child has a choice. They can choose to play in bed before they go to sleep. They can choose to call you and get that cuddle. That independence is everything for them.
Yeah, my brain's just filling up with every toddler I have seen dash for the door when they're in a store with their parents.
Yeah.
Or in a toy store getting a little car and chase off out the door. The parents running after them. Yes, it varies so much about the independence. So, how much of a baby's sleep challenge do you feel is about the routine or the environment or the feeding? I think you've already alluded to it, but is it that versus the temperament and the developmental stage of the child? So is it more, here's your environment that you're in, or is it, no, this is me as the independent baby?
Oh, nurture versus nature.
Yes.
Yeah, it's both. It's really both. To have two families with exactly the same sleep challenge, yet one child is one who knows their own mind and knows how to push and is very demanding, and one is quite laid back. So they would have different challenges. But I think one of the things I absolutely love doing is preparing the parent for the scenarios that they might face in that first night, because that's quite big challenge, going from feeding to sleep 10 times a night to getting baby to learn how to fall asleep in their own bed. It's huge. And so there's that pressure building for the parent. I'm scared to make that change. All of a sudden, I'm forgotten, why am I doing this? But knowing what to expect and remember how your child is behaving right now and what's catching you off guard, remember that behavior, know what to expect. So then they're able to practice their breathing, be strong for the child, not be angry. It's okay for them to feel a certain way, and you're going to be there and you're going to support them. You're going to be on their side of the fence, not on the other side going, gotta sleep already. I know you're tired. No, they're going to be on on the baby side of the fence going, man, this is hard. I know you don't want this change. I get it. I'm here with you until you can come down. You're not alone. The difference, yeah, every child's different. Every parent's different. We're triggered by things that have nothing to do with our kids. And so we'll behave in a certain way that's going to trigger our kids. And it's a cycle. So you need to learn how to translate it and then rebalance it.
What are the most common of the mistakes parents making that are accidentally keeping them and baby awake?
Overfeeding and overwatering is probably the biggest issue. A dummy obsession that comes from parent, that's a big one. Sometimes you see, actually quite frequently, you see a parent going, I've never tried to put my child in bed because the only time I did it, they cried immediately. So I thought they don't like their mattress, it's not comfortable. So I will rock them to sleep or bounce them to sleep. But have you really tried it? And it's not the parent's fault because baby will fall asleep for the first 3-4 months, no matter what you do. You feed, they fall asleep. You walk, they fall asleep. You change their nappy, they're going to fall asleep. So they've gotten used to something, and then the parents going, okay, this is the only place that they're falling asleep. I'm just going to keep going with that. And the problem is, as they become more aware, the baby goes, this isn't enough. Add something else on top of the pile there, and maybe then I'll go to sleep. But yeah, that is a snowball.
Gosh.
And it's nobody's fault.
No. And those poor parents who are so deep in the sleep deprivation and just completely overwhelmed, where do you even begin to help? What would be the first thing that you address with that poor parent who's on their knees?
I think understanding them. So I give them the same treatment they will give the baby. I'm here to place down boundaries for them. So the first thing I will do is learn who they are and learn who the baby is. And once I have a good grip of the situation, mainly emotionally and psychologically, because quite a lot of the time there's a sleep problem because the mum is so scared of doing something because it was a late pregnancy or there were a few rounds of IVF and she was so scared she would never have babies. So she's just holding on in a place where the baby is actually ready to release. And again, it's nobody's fault, but how are you going to release if you're still feeling scared about losing? So first of all, I need to know who they are. I need to know who the baby is. And then I need to place the boundaries for them, which then they will have to place for the baby. And then I need to hold them. So I can't give them a cuddle, but I can hold their feelings. I can have love and compassion for them. I can understand them just like they would be on the baby side of the fence. I'm there for them on their side of the fence. I get it. I get it. It's not easy. And you're being run by something that might not be true, might be true, but you're run by it and you're doing something that's hurting you and hurting your child. So I get it. And I'm with you. And how are we going to do that? How are we going to change everything? We're going to understand, what do you need? And is that what your child needs? That's it. Maybe it's not. Most of the time it's not. So we're just going to go with the flow there and we'll see. Usually the baby really sets the tone of the process. They're ready to let go a lot sooner than the parents ready to go because the parents got decades of tragedy and trauma and drama in their lives. And that's running our brains, isn't it? And our actions. The baby is fresh. They're ready. Let's go. I'm ready. I can go to sleep now. Are you ready to let go, Mom? Yeah, let's do it together. So I'm here to do for the parent what the parent's doing for the baby.
That is fantastic. So within my REWIRE framework, we talk about how you cannot regulate, lead, or thrive from that depleted nervous system. How does what you do for families directly connect to the parent's own mental health and capacity to function? What has been the transition you have seen from the parents that you work with? So the absolutely on their knees parent, what does that transformation look like on the other side?
Oh, do you know, I almost never paint a picture of what that's going to be like to the parent. I say it in a sentence. In the end, you'll be able to put your baby in bed, leave the room, they'll play for a few minutes happily and fall asleep, and you'll see them in the morning and they're like, yeah, that's not going to happen. So I don't want to embellish what the future is going to look like because they never believe it. And I don't want to make them feel like it's completely out of reach because I know it's not, but they don't. But what I almost always see is like a new sense of freedom. I can breathe. Baby's going to sleep. I'm not stressed that they're going to wake up anymore. They've stopped feeding overnight because they didn't want it. Great. What am I going to do with all this time? And also showing the baby that you're always going to be there for them when they need you and the important parts. The bonding experience with the baby, it's incredible. And especially with the other parent, with the unwanted parent. So usually the dad is much easier to work with because they're not home all the time. They come back, they've got all the energy for their child. And then they put them to bed at night. They go to sleep in a minute. And the mum's, oh my God, it's just taking me an hour and a half. What is happening here? Okay, so there's an attachment that something is not working. We need to work on that. And so as soon as we do, and parent, the mum or the dad, the unwanted parent, is not giving up on their baby. They're there even though it's hard, all the way to the end without abandoning them, without getting them out of bed and changing the situation, rescuing them and taking them into their own bed. The bonding is huge. So the trust gets rebuilt or built in the first place, that sense of safety and security with that parent. And so there's a lot of releasing and letting go during the day. So if a baby is usually cranky and needy, now they're going to have that newfound sense of freedom. So the parent gets that as well. Okay, they can do this on their own. They're happy for me to sit here with my coffee. Deal. There's a lot of freedom. bonding is incredible. Many parents don't sleep in the same bed because one of them needs to go back to work next day, or they both work and they switch. So dads come back to bed quite a lot of the time and everybody gets a good night's sleep, and couples come back together. So the bottom line is a huge shift into something that you never really had before, but you remember something slightly different when you didn't have babies. That going to bed with your partner, having a wee cuddle, drinking that glass of wine, chatting about your day, having the space and intimacy comes back. It's life like you remember, but with a child in the next room or in the bed next to you, but free and well rested. My God, can't stress how great that is.
From someone that went through a severe burnout, I had been a chronic insomniac for probably since my teens. It's very rare I ever slept more than about 4 hours a night. One of the first things that the medical team that was around me said was, we have to fix your sleep. We can't work on anything else until sleep is fixed. And
That should be the answer to every medical problem, by the way.
sleep. And I'm so happy there's so much more research going on into sleep and how completely valuable it is for your metabolism, because lack of sleep gives you weight issues, cardiac issues, mental health issues. So I think it's incredible the work that you're doing to try and install sleep habits from an early age that I hope is something that throughout life, it's this feeling safe when you go to sleep is there. So of all the biggest advice out there for baby sleep, what is the one myth you wish would just disappear?
Oh, so many, but one that's really bugging me is, don't believe the myth that sleep begets sleep. And it does. It really does. People just wake their babies up all the time because they slept too much here and they're really aware that it's too late in the day and then they're not going to sleep at night. But believe it, please believe that myth, because waking a baby up in the middle of a sleep cycle, you never know where they are in that sleep cycle. Are they in the dream sleep or are they in the deep sleep? And if they're in the deep sleep side of the cycle, which is completely back to front from an adult, so until the age of 5, they start with dream sleep for about 20-25 minutes, and then it turns into deep sleep. And if you wake them up in that chunk of time, and you never know exactly where it is because every child's different, then they can get into a state of sleep inertia, which is an overtired state, which means you'll get a rush of adrenaline. And so they can be completely hysterical for the next entire wake window. Adrenaline will suppress melatonin, so the next sleep is going to be disrupted. And then all of that is going to disturb their night sleep as well. So the frequent wake ups, the early rising in the morning, the low quality, not deep sleep. That's just a myth that's been busted, but yeah, I'm bringing it back. Let them sleep. The more they sleep, the more relaxed the system is going to be, because the melatonin will then suppress the adrenaline, and so they can actually be relaxed. Their muscle activity is going to drop down because they're a bit more chill, and just everything just goes with the flow after that. So never wake a sleeping baby, please.
So I think you already alluded to it, but if a parent is very stressed out, I've always had the impression that the child is very aware of the parent's nervous state. In your practice, have you seen that as well, that a very highly strung parent passes that, the baby can sense that and passes it on to the baby somehow, or is that another myth?
No, it's not a myth. I think if we're stressed, we're quite jittery and our heart rate's elevated. So yeah, if you're thinking something, they're probably going to know, even if you try to hold it back. Your breathing's going to be a bit faster and your baby's going to feel you're jerking Absolutely. They know exactly what's going on in our head and in our body. They're clever like that.
Point do you feel that parents should start seeking professional support from someone like yourself? Is it as soon as they perceive there's something up with the sleep cycle, but 3 months, 4 months, or is it as the child's older? And until what age do you support?
I work with kids from 5 months to 5, 6 years. The process looks a bit different because it's a bit, as soon as it becomes verbal, there's a lot of preparation, a lot of psychological preparation for the child. There's different needs, emotional needs, anxiety and fear, and all the rest of it. So the process changes, but we can still work with the guidelines, and it's mostly parent coaching, really just focused on sleep. But when should you seek help? When you feel like you need to seek help. I can't say there is a thing that would cause everyone to seek help. Sometimes it's a very personal, I think I covered that in the beginning when I said some parents will have exactly the same sleep conditions, but one will say, I can do this for another year or two, and one will say, I can't do this any longer. So it's so personal. Don't have an answer for you.
And is there a change if the mother has been off a maternity leave and is now returning to her career? Is there an impact that seems to cause in the sleep dynamic within the household? Or if there's already those boundaries set up, it's not a major impact?
Once you know how to read your child, how to translate them and their actions, you really have the tools to deal with anything that comes. At the end of the process, you'll know, is this behavioral, this little pushback, or is this a physical need, pain, discomfort, change, etc. But when there are major changes, obviously there is a cause for the child to check or test again. Not all the time. Some kids are quite relaxed, and some kids are looking for any excuse to just go poop. So, you know a few of them. I know 3 of them. They're lovely. But when you've got the tools to read your child, then you just know how to deal with it. But any change, illness, holidays, a sibling joined the family, moving house or country, all starting work, starting school, starting nursery, there's so many, life goes on, right? So you need to know not how to manage sleep, how to manage the boundaries that you've laid for everyone's sake, and the sense of calm in the house, that loving support, always having open ears and an open heart, and at the same time listening, taking it in, translating it back to the child, and moving forward. It's definitely not straightforward being a parent. You have to be very creative.
Yes, I always used to refer to it as being, once they can speak and communicate, it's like psychological warfare. It's like you've always got to be thinking 1, 2, 3 steps ahead.
You can't.
I think that was exhausting in itself.
Yeah.
So, where can my listeners find you, and what does working with you look like?
I'm on social media. I've got a website. My business is called backtosleep.co. And how does it work? You just send me a message and book a free 15-minute call, and we can see, first of all, what's the situation with you, and then I can explain a bit more in depth how I work with people, what's your situation like, and how can we move forwards to see if the process is even right for you. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. I've got an online course if you want to do it on your own. Otherwise, a process with me takes about 3 weeks on average, but I don't confine it to 3 weeks because quite a lot of the time there's teething and illnesses and changes, etc. Basically, I'm here with you and from the initial call and every single day until baby is fully sleep independent. And as I said, that little sentence, you place them in bed, leave the room, they play for a few minutes, and then they fall asleep and you see them in the morning. So I'm also very flexible. So there are some parents who will say to me, I don't want to remove a night feed. I want to leave one. I want to sit with a baby in the room until they fall asleep, until they're 5. Or so I'm not rigid. And yeah, that's me.
And to close, I'd love for you to complete the following sentence for me. When a baby sleeps and they sleep well, the whole family, what?
Oh, I can breathe again.
Fantastic. So thank you so much, Dotty, for your time today. I really appreciate it. I feel like I have learned a lot in this session about the boundaries and how it translates. And for the women that I work with who are also parents of young children, I feel this is so valuable. So thank you very much. And
Thank you for
take
having
care.
me.
And I hope to be able to speak to you again soon. Bye.
Bye.